to another episode of The Smiling Guru on the 10 Relationship Sparks. Thank you so much for all your comments and listening to the first two on commitment, and the second one was on trust. I've had such positive comments from people in their emails and their little messages on Facebook. I really truly appreciate all the support that you give me. So today we get to go on to the third episode and the third spark, which is something that I feel is absolutely important. Now, we do this all the time with our partners, and it comes in various forms. And this spark is all about communication. Now, imagine that if you are sitting with a person that you are deciding to spend the rest of your life with, and you do not know how to communicate your feelings or what you're thinking. Now, that will definitely be a big shortfall in that relationship. So let me very quickly talk about what is communication. I believe that communication is the ability to translate your thoughts and your feelings, because your thoughts and your feelings become your behavior and your action. And if you do not know how to communicate your feelings and your thoughts to your partner, then what type of behavior, what type of action would you have between each other? A lack of communication leads to breakdowns. It leads to both partners overthinking, but silently overthinking, not overthinking where you talk about what you are thinking to each other. It leads to a lot of insecurities. Now, when a partner feels insecure in a relationship, which I've mentioned in the last episode, it can be it loses your partner loses confidence. Now, I hear so many couples that I do therapy with, they come into my therapy room and there's these awkward silences, where they really do not know how, how to communicate with each other. The shouting, the ranting, the screaming, and the arguing, and the swearing, all that is a way of communicating, but it's not healthy. We need healthy ways of communicating, because if we constantly, use these unhealthy ways of communication, then both partners, you're going to get tired of that relationship, because that relationship now is not based on respect. When you respect somebody and when you respect yourself, you wouldn't allow the other person to talk to you in a way that makes you feel less of yourself, or you lose your self-worth. Now, the worst is having a partner lose interest in you because you've lost that spark, that ability to have fun together. And the lack of communication stumps your relationship. When your relationship ends up in this way, you'd find that both partners become very unhappy. And unhappiness in a relationship leads to a very, very nasty breakdown. And unfortunately, our children are the ones that actually suffer the consequences. Now, what are the various forms of communication? Now, I've listed it in 3 ways. The first one is tactile. Now, tactile is the power of touch. Beneath the surfaces of our skin, we have nerve endings, and we have this beautiful feeling. When we have to touch somebody in a loving way, you end up stimulating your brain with all these wonderful, happy chemicals. Buddhist monks believe that you need a minimum of 12 hugs a day for you to be a successful person. Now, imagine having a hug every single hour of the day. Now, every hour you're getting your brain flooded with these beautiful chemicals like serotonin and those happy chemicals. Now, some simple ways of tactile communication is holding hands. I'm married for 25 years, like I said, and whenever we are walking together, it's naturally we hold hands. And our hands are natural healers. We have healing hands. And when we hold hands with our partner, we are exchanging positive energies to each other. So that holding hands is definitely a must. And if you notice that you've lost that ability to hold hands, it's never too late to actually start. Hugging each other, hugging each other, not doing it clinically where before you go to work, give a very quick hug, or when you come home from work, another hug. It becomes very clinical. So hugging must be spontaneous. When you feel like you need to hug your partner, and you feel for that hug, it's okay. Go and get that hug from your partner, because there again, it's stimulating all those wonderful happy chemicals. How many of you actually on a weekend, you have a lie-in, and you lie in your partner's arms, and you have this wonderful loving silence in between. It's such a beautiful feeling. And if you've lost it through the years, and I know when people have children, they tend to do less of those, less of the tactile things that is healthy form of communication. The other one is verbal. How do we speak? Do we speak lovingly? Do we speak softly? Do we rant? Do we rave? And I know we all have moments of ranting and raving in a relationship, and I know I do that quite a bit. But I think that being able to express how you feel in the form of words to your partner is so important. If you are feeling sad, or if you are feeling unhappy, sit them down and speak to them. Let them listen to what you are feeling and what's in your heart. Because if you don't let them listen to what's in your heart and in your mind, it's taking up space. Heart space and mind space, and it starts to cause quite a lot of agony in your life. The other form of communication is gestures. Gestures comes in the form of buying flowers, but it doesn't need to be for a special occasion. It could just be that you're feeling the love, and you just want to do something nice. It could be writing letters to your partner. If you haven't done that, I know everybody does emails now, and if my husband had to send me an email expressing how much he loves me, I'm going to be really upset, because I feel like going back to writing little notes and writing little cards, and it's so important to have that. When I was actually going out with my husband, when we were dating, I was teaching then, and we were teaching in the same school. And while I used to do PE, physical education, on the playground, my husband Anesh used to write little notes and send them with the pupils, with some of his students, to me, and I would open it, have a read through it in the middle of my PE lesson, and I would have a smile or a giggle. And I've got one of them in my wallet at the moment, and it's been there for the last 25 years. Now these notes, and these little notes and these letters are wonderful gestures, and it's so nice to actually go back and read through them, or make a scrapbook with all of them. Now, I know that it's so important to add personal touches to your relationship. Most partners, they love food. Food is a beautiful way of communication. And, preparing dinner instead of going out, cooking together, those are all wonderful forms of communication, wonderful forms of, saying to the other person, I respect you, I believe in you, I love you. These are all different gestures that actually allows them, these are all personal touches that you add to a relationship. Sometimes buying them a piece of clothing that you think that might look quite nice, that's also a very important thing. Another form of communication that I feel that is important is being intimate with your partner. Being able to spend time together, and to be able to love each other. It doesn't just become a sexual thing, it becomes a loving gesture, and that is very important. It's so important to have a healthy romance and a healthy way of communicating with your partner in that respect. How do we communicate effectively? Now, for me, I'm going to give you some practical things that I use when I want to when I'm in business and I want to talk to my partner with Anish, we switch off mobile phones. You know, we put Facebook on hold, we put our phones one side, and we sit down to have our talk. Do not talk about mundane things. You know, talking about bills and mundane things start to bring in the boredom and starts to bring in that that feeling of, oh no, not again. Now, we don't want to sit down with our partner thinking, oh no, not again. So have a separate time to actually talk about finance, and have a separate time to actually talk about, things that that keeps your relationship alive. Another thing is, we've spoken about the various ways of communicating, but another important one is talk. Verbal communication. So you have to be able to find time, make time to talk. In the mornings, I know everybody is in a rush to go to work, but when you get back home, put the kids to bed early and find that time to sit down and have dinner and have an adult conversation. You could even have dinner with your children, but at the same time, get them to bed early and actually find that time to sit down and chat. It's important to offload. It's important to talk about work and your career and things like that, but that mustn't be the only things that you talk about. Make time for each other to actually talk. Those silent moments in a relationship it's a very important and effective form of communication. Watching a movie together whilst cuddling under a blanket. I think that's my favorite. I love doing that. Be open. Have the freedom to say the truth that's on your mind. Give each other a space, but also by communicating effectively, it gives each other a peace of mind. And it's important to talk about your finance. It's important to talk about career and your goals and your choices. All of these things are really imperative for a healthy relationship. But also make time to have fun. Have a laugh. Don't forget that jovial jester that you have within yourself, because you have to have all of these things to actually keep that spark alive. And communication, being able to communicate, is an absolute top of the list. So I hope this has helped you. Reflect, sit back, talk with your partner, listen to this with them, and see what can you put into place to make your communication with your partner much more effective and much more profound in both your happiness. Keep smiling. From Nirasha, the Smiling Guru. God bless.